Hello there and welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Beth and I post weekly vlogs of my life with my baby girl Robin. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how this is gonna go. Basically, last week I filmed and edited a sit-down video that I wanted to post today because it is Robin's birthday today, so I wanted to do a special video. Long story short, I did not have the memory to save the video that I worked so hard on. I tried to figure out a way, but I just couldn't. So then I was like, fine, I'll just live stream on her birthday and it'll be fine. You have to have 1,000 subscribers to live stream. Like, that is so rude. So I'm recording on YouTube. I don't know if this is going to work. So basically this is going to be an unedited video. It's going to be so long. I'm so sorry. But today I'm going to be sharing Robin's birth story because what better day to share this on than her first birthday. So on the 6th of October last year, 2018, it was a Saturday. We had quite a busy morning that morning. We went for breakfast with my dad, we went shopping, and whilst we were out I noticed I was having like period pains, but they weren't painful. And I didn't say anything because we were with my dad and it was sort of the plan to not tell anyone while we were in labour. I just sort of wanted to go have birth and then tell everyone afterwards. So I didn't tell Jamie until after we'd left my dad. And I just sort of said, you know, not painful, but this is what's going on. And I was thinking in my head, okay, so I think the baby is going to come some point this week. We got home early afternoon and I just wanted to sort of lay on the sofa and not do anything because I was feeling like, not rubbish, but I wasn't feeling great because I felt like I was like getting my period and that just doesn't feel nice. And as soon as I laid down and relaxed, they all just stopped. The next day, the 7th of October, on the Sunday, was my due date, and late morning, I'd say around 10 o'clock, I was having those like period pains again, and this time they stayed all day, and in the early afternoon I decided to Google like what early labour feels like, what early contractions feel like, and every single forum, every article said period pains. And that's when I realised I was in labour. And I actually had my dog with me because the setup was my dog lived with my grandma because the flat we were living in didn't allow pets, and I had previously been living with my grandma with my dog, so she just has like a real special bond with my dog now, and she just looks after her so well, gives her an amazing life. So when we got the flat we couldn't have pets. The arrangement was that my dog would continue to live with my grandma, which made my grandma really happy, and I just had my dog Poppy at the weekends. So as this was weekend, I had my dog. So I rang my grandma and said, I think I should bring her back early because I think things are happening and I don't want to leave it too late. So I took my dog back, and I'm pretty sure Jamie offers to come with me, but I was like, no, I'm fine. Went to my grandma, sat there for a bit, and then I decided to pop to my mum's. My mum was my other birthing partner, so I just sort of let her know what was going on. And then I was like, I should probably go home because I'm just driving around in labour on my own, so I think I should go home. So I went home and we just had like our usual evening. We watched The Circle. I'm pretty sure I had some pizza for dinner. And then it came to bedtime. I think I laid in bed for about 5 minutes. I'd say they were like painful now. They still didn't feel like contractions or like what I thought contraction would feel like. They just felt like period pains. I realised I wasn't going to be able to sleep though, so I went out into the living room. I wanted Jamie to get as much sleep as he could possibly get. I had done a hypnobirthing course with the Positive Birth Company, so something I'd learned was to make your environment really relaxing. So I had the room like pitch black. Oh, I just realised I had footage of this bit, but I can't show you, but never mind. I made the room pitch black, I lit some tea lights, I bounced on my birthing ball, I put some Netflix on my iPad. I couldn't concentrate on like what I was watching though because they were kind of painful now. Yeah, so I wanted this real calm, I had like everything right, However, the place we were living in at the time was just awful. And our neighbours decided that night to party all night long. And they would drink, they would take drugs, just really loud music, like it lasted all night. So Jamie didn't even really get that much sleep. He came out into the living room about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I think he had a bit of a shock because I think as far as he knew I was just sleeping on the sofa, and then he came out and realised I was in full-on labour. So he came out and started tracking my contractions, just, you know, comforting me. I think he was like falling asleep. Like when a contraction would stop, he'd fall asleep, and then once I'd start like contracting again, he'd be like, oh, and start timing the contractions. He was getting a bit like worried because my contractions were really close together, I think, but then there would be like an odd one that just threw all that off, and he was like, yeah, he just started getting worried and was like, I think we should go to hospital. So we rang up the hospital I'd planned to deliver at, which was about a half-hour drive away, and they said, well, you can come in, but the chances are you're just going to get sent home, because with your first-time labour, like first-time spontaneous labours, you're typically in labour for a long time. So we decided to go to our local hospital instead, which is like a 5-minute drive, where I had been going for my midwife appointments. This was about 3 a.m. Because my contractions, and also I was struggling with the pain. So we went there. It was actually my midwife that was on duty, but I never really built up much of a bond with my midwife, and I actually didn't see her that much. I saw a lot of like temporary like cover midwives instead. So yeah, I didn't ever really build up a relationship with her. And I forgot to say, either that day or the Saturday, I had gone to the toilet for a wee, and after I finished weeing, more liquid came out, and I thought that could be my waters. So I said, I don't know if I think my waters might have gone, and she was like, right, I need to check that, because if your waters go and you don't have your baby, like then you're at risk of infection. So to check that, she used, I'm pretty sure it was a speculum, which is what you have when you have your smear test. But usually they are fine. But when you are contracting and they use that on you, it's very, very uncomfortable. That was bad for me. And it turned out my waters hadn't even gone anyway. And I was only 2 centimetres dilated, and I was devastated. So then we had to go home. Being in the car, just made the contractions feel even more painful for some reason. So yeah, we just carried on at home. Somehow I carried on at home. Sometime in the morning I thought I should eat something because I hadn't eaten anything. We didn't really have much in, so I tried to eat a bag of Quavers, and then I just threw them straight back up in the sink. I was really struggling to cope at home. I just couldn't get in any comfortable position, and I really hated living there, so I feel like I just couldn't really relax there because it wasn't like a safe place to me. At about 10 a.m. we went back to the local hospital because I was really struggling with the pain. I really struggled to walk across like the car park. It felt like I was walking with like a watermelon between my legs. There was a really lovely midwife on duty now. She checked me and I was only 3 centimetres dilated. I also had to give a urine sample, and I can't remember what that was for, but I remember I really struggled with that. I hear a lot of people say that the squatting position is really comfortable for like labour and delivery, but sitting on that toilet was horrendous for me. So painful with the contractions. I can't remember what the sample was for, but I guess everything was fine. I kind of just stayed on that hospital bed. I didn't want to move. I was quite comfortable there. She gave me a codeine tablet for the pain, even though we all knew that wasn't going to do anything. Sorry, I'm reading my notes here. Yeah, I kind of just like refused to leave. I did not want to go back into the car. I did not want to go home because I didn't feel relaxed there. The really nice midwife was like, well, I've got rounds and things to do, so I'm just going to leave you 2 here and I'll come back in a bit and we'll sort of revisit a plan. So we were left on our own for a while. I can't really tell how long it was because my mind was just, you know. Jamie, I could tell, was starting to get a bit worried now because you have to be 4 centimetres to be able to stay in hospital. And obviously I wasn't 4 centimetres, but I was refusing to leave. So I think he was thinking, how am I going to get her to go home? So he said, shall I ring your mum? And I was like, yeah. My mum worked really close to the hospital. However, she took so blinking long to get there, which was the first thing I said when she walked in. I like shouted at her for taking so long. She like burst into tears when she seen me because I've been very fortunate in life and I've never really been in pain before. So no one's ever seen me in pain. So obviously it wasn't very nice for my mum and Jamie to see me in that much pain. Yeah, I'd got it into my head that I was delivering at this hospital now. I'm staying here. The midwife came back, and my mum and Jamie and the midwife sort of went off and had a chat, and I could hear bits. And my mum was like, no, she is going to the RUH, which is the big hospital where I was planning to deliver. I think my mum and Jamie were thinking that I would need an epidural or something. I think they thought I wasn't really coping with the pain, or I wouldn't be able to cope further down the line. The midwife said, you know, just go there. She said they're not going to turn you away when they see her, just go. So I had to go. I had to lie on the back seats of my mum's car because my mum had a bigger car, and then Jamie followed us behind. It's like a half-hour drive, so when you're in full-on labour, I couldn't talk through contractions or anything now. And I was just led, and all I could see was the sky out the window, and I was trying to focus on that sky, focus on my hypnobirthing breathing, and my mum was in the front like saying, you're doing so well, just focus on that breathing, focus on that breathing. We eventually got there, and the car park was Ramo. My mum got parked, but Jamie didn't, and I think he was about to park on a grass verge, which is technically illegal, I think, but you know, I was in labour, so he was going to do whatever. Luckily, someone must have left because my mum suddenly started shouting that there was a space over there. Then I had to walk all the way across the car park, all the way through the hospital, which was so hard for me to do. And then we had to wait to be buzzed into the maternity ward, and I guess they were all busy, so we were stood waiting at the doors for so long, and standing was so hard. I was like, I'm going to sit on the floor in a minute. We eventually got buzzed in, got taken to the ward where like all the other women are. So my midwife then was called Kerry, and I feel awful because I can't remember what she looks like. All I remember is her name was Kerry. She checked me. This was at 1 p.m. now. She checked me and I was 5 centimetres, which not only meant that I could stay in hospital, it also meant that I could go to my own room. We think that all the walking I had to do across all the car parks probably helped like move things along. So yeah, she's like, right, let's go to your room. And I had to walk to my room, and I was thinking, where are the wheelchairs at? In the movies, they get whisked off in their wheelchairs. But no, I had to walk, and every time I got contraction, I had to stop and like hold on to something, like the wall. And I just assumed that she had read my maternity notes, which had my birth preferences in. And in my birth preferences, I said that I wanted a water birth. So I assumed that she had read that. And she was just taking us to a standard room, and my heart broke a little bit because I'd really, really had my heart set on a water birth, and I had convinced myself that I wouldn't be able to cope with labour if I wasn't in the water. So I was thinking, how the hell am I going to do this now? Luckily though, my hero, Jamie, this is like a great example of why birth partners are so important, because sometimes you just can't voice your own opinions or anything when you're in that pain, and so it's really important that your birth partner knows exactly what you want. Luckily, he asked if there were any birthing pools available, and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realise that's what you wanted. And we got taken to a birthing pool room, and I laid on the bed while the pool was being filled up, and she gave me some gas and air. And I was so happy because this whole time, while I was struggling so much, I was just thinking, if I have gas and air, I'll be fine. I just know it. Gave me the gas and air. And once again, I was heartbroken because it wasn't doing anything. And I was like, crap, how am I going to do this with no gas and air? Because I was just dead set I did not want an epidural because that just freaks me out. And then she finished the pour and then she came over to me and she's like, oh, you're not breathing in deep enough. I wasn't doing it properly, basically. And once I took a deep breath in, it hit. It was just magical. And I got in the pool, and as soon as that water touched my body, the pain just stopped completely. I still can't believe it to this day that water can have that effect on you. So I'm just catching up with my notes. So yeah, the midwife went out for a bit, and then when she came back in, she asked a question and I answered, and she turned around and she was so shocked because up until that point I don't think I'd even spoken to her. I was in so much pain, I wasn't talking, and then suddenly I was just normal like this, because that is what the gas and air and the water did for me. It just changed everything. And we just had like such a chill time. Like me, my mum and Jamie and the midwife were all chatting and laughing. I told Jamie to go get coffee and he was like, oh, are you sure? Because up until this point, he had to be within reach of me every single time I had a contraction. For some reason, every time I had a contraction, I had to grab him. And now I was like, just go and get a coffee, go like chill out, because I knew it must have been a lot to deal with me and see me like that. So time went really fast. The midwife only came in now and then to check the temperature of the water and the baby's heart rate. I'm really sure she said with first time spontaneous labours they only check your dilation once every 4 hours. And obviously she checked me at 1, so there was no need to check my dilation. After a couple of hours, I was starting to feel pain again, but not like excruciating. It was just, I just started to feel, I don't know, I could just feel a bit of pain there again. And I was like, oh, something must be happening. And the contractions now were just, it felt like almost one constant contraction pretty much, because I was using the gas and air every time I had a contraction. And then all of a sudden I wasn't even taking it out of my mouth because I needed it that much. And I remember saying to my mum and Jamie, like, if the midwife checked me now, I think you'd all be really shocked at how far along I am, because I was still acting normal. Well, the gas and air made me act a little bit drunk, but I was like so chilled, but I knew that things were happening. And then the contractions just stopped and I just felt like everything changed and it kind of freaked me out. And in my head I was like, oh, this is the transition, which I'd learned about in my course. So I asked them to get the midwife. She came in. When she came in, I was starting to get the urge to push, which was freaking me out a little bit, because I was feeling the urge to push and my body was just like naturally pushing and I wasn't doing it, and that was kind of freaking me out. I didn't know that was a thing in labour. And she was like, oh, you know, she was like, oh, you know, you're going to be in labour for hours yet, but I can check you if you really want me to. And I wanted her to, because, you know, I started mooing like a cow. And I remember when I did my course, I said to Jamie, if I start mooing like a cow, that's when you know I'm ready to push, because that is what I'd learned. And my mum said, oh, she sounds like she's there. Sorry, I think that was the postman. And she tried to check me in the water, but we just couldn't really get the positioning right. So then I had to get out of the pool and onto the bed, and as soon as I like got out of the water, the pain would hit and I couldn't really use the gas and air as I was trying to get out of the pool. And I really struggled to get out. Mum and Jamie had to help me a lot because it was quite deep, and I'm very petite. Got onto the bed. I was quite in distress now because I was out of the water. I was feeling all of the pain. My body was like pushing without me trying to push, and it was freaking me out. And she checked me. She went, oh, you're 10 centimetres, but we could really do with your waters popping now. And as soon as she said that, pop went my waters, and then it was sort of all systems go to get me back into the pool where I felt safe. And yeah, I just kept freaking out because I really, really needed to push. And she was like, just push if you need to push. And then she was like, this is TMI, But she said, you know, when I checked your dilation when you came in, I noticed your bowels were very full. So that's probably what this is, like why you're feeling like such a big need to push. Because if you didn't know, when you give birth, you push just like you're having a poo. It's exactly the same. So long story short, I ended up pooing in the pool. And yeah, Jamie was really scared at this point because I was screaming like a wild freaking animal. He actually had a little bit of a, not a breakdown, but he like got upset. He started crying because I was looking at him like so terrified. Like I was saying help, in my head I was saying like help me, but I couldn't get the words out. But I could tell he knew like how scared I was. So yeah, he was frightened. Yeah, I remember screaming like something's wrong, something's wrong with the baby or something. I remember saying the baby's gonna hurt me, because I knew that tearing was something you couldn't really avoid, and I just felt like my whole body was just gonna like tear in half. So I was like freaking out. What else? Oh, the midwife checked the heart rate, and the heart rate had dropped, like the baby's heart rate had dropped. And she told me that, but it just didn't really click in my head. I was just so out of it from the gas and air. But I could tell that everyone else's moods just change like that. And she was like, you need to get on the bed. So I really, really did not want to get out of the pool again, because the water just helped so much with the pain. But I knew I had to. So Mum and Jamie were like trying to rush to get me on the bed as quick as possible, but I wasn't really working with them because I didn't want to get on the bed. I didn't really understand what was happening. Jamie in the end had to just like grab me and drag me out of the pool and put me on the bed. And I was very, very upset and distressed at this point. I was sobbing to my mum, saying, this is not what I want. This is not how I want to do this, because I really, really did not want to deliver on the bed. My hypnobirthing course said that laying on your back to give birth is the worst position you can be in because you don't have gravity working with you. So I was absolutely devastated because I knew I was going to have a harder job now to get the baby out. They kept saying things like either she's here or her head's here or something. So I was like, oh my god, her head's out, great. But it wasn't, and I was getting really frustrated because they kept saying things that made me think I was almost there when I wasn't. I also remember I kept trying to look to see what was going on, and my mum was like, why are you trying to look down there? And I was thinking, because I need to see like what progress I'm making. It would have been great if I could have had a mirror, to be honest, so I could actually see what was going on. Some people, I feel like that would really freak some people out to see that, but in that moment I really wanted to see what was going on with my own body. So yeah, all this time I'm screaming, remember. I thought I was going to die. You can tell I'm very dramatic, but I really did think I was going to die. I remember thinking, oh my god, I'm going to die and never even meet my baby, because that's how painful it was, that's how scary it was. I pushed for 20 minutes, which is not long, but it felt very long. She told me that I was going to push for probably like an hour, but I ended up pushing for 20 minutes. The pain of crowning, wow, I can still feel that burning to this day. Yeah. And then the head came out, and then the body just slid on out afterwards like a little gross fish. She was born at 3:49 p.m. in the afternoon. She was put straight onto my chest. This is where my memory is really, really blank, which makes me sad, because like, who can't remember the moment their baby is born? But sadly I can't. So Jamie really had to fill in these gaps for me. Apparently the midwives said, was there 2 midwives at this point? I can't remember. But apparently they said happy birthday to her as they like pulled her out. Yeah, they put her on my chest. Everyone was crying. Jamie crying, Mum crying, me crying. I was crying because I was so relieved that we were both alive, because I really didn't think we were both going to survive. And the first thing I remember saying to her, which I don't know if is right, but the first thing I remember is about her eyelashes, because her eyelashes were and still are so long. And then about her hair, because when she was crowning, everyone kept saying she had brown hair. And throughout my pregnancy, it was like a big thing, like what colour hair is she going to have, because I'm brown, but Jamie is ginger. But none of his children are ginger, so we were like, it was just a big thing. Is she going to be ginger? Is she not? And they put her on me, and I was like, what are you on about? She's ginger. She had like brown hair and then like red tips all along the edges, like auburn hair. And then throughout the weeks, it just spread. And now, if you are a subscriber, you know she is full on ginge, and she rocks it. I rang my dad with the news because between Mum and Jamie, they'd pretty much told both of our families, like everyone. But because my mum and dad aren't together, it kind of fell down to me to tell him. So I rang him and was like, you got a granddaughter? And he was like, oh my God, because obviously he didn't know that I had been in labour. I'm sure we tried to latch Robin on. We had like, you know, the golden hour skin to skin. I also delivered the placenta, which I was really anxious about, but that was really fine. They just put an injection in my leg, which made my stomach contract, and then I just had to do a little push and it came out, and that was fine. Yeah, so latched on with Robin. They brought in the tea and toast, the holy tea and toast. I was so looking forward to, because I hadn't eaten or drank anything. I had one sip of my tea and then a bite of my toast, and I was like, I'm gonna be sick. And my mum rushed to get me a bowl, but sadly she wasn't quick enough, and I vomited on myself. So I've got blood all down here, sick all along here, poo all in here because I pooed in the pool and had my head in it. So I was pretty rank. And they all wanted me to have a bath. And I was like, I just want to lay here with my baby. But no, the midwife cleaned out the pool and then they started filling it up for me to have a bath. And I just really didn't want to, but I didn't have the energy to fight with anyone. So I sat up and I stood up, and Jamie was right next to me. I stood up, and I'm really sorry if you're squeamish, but all this blood just gushed out of me from obviously down there. And I looked down and I just saw this blood on the floor, and then this is really gross, so I'm sorry if you're squeamish, but the smell of blood just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I said, I'm gonna faint. And I remember thinking, oh gosh, I hope they take me seriously, because for me, when I'm about to faint, I can't speak, like I lose my speech. So I just managed to get those words out, and then that was it. But luckily they did take me seriously. Jamie sat me down on this chair, and that is when I fainted. I remember hearing like this alarm in the distance, but I didn't put it together. But either Mum or Jamie pulled the emergency buzzer, and then when I came to, there was a whole room of people. And please remember, I am stark naked, covered in vomit, sick, poo, and now there's a whole room full of people like trying to put water in my mouth and putting cold flannels on my head, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so humiliating. So yeah, after I felt a little bit better, I went back on the bed and the bath was forgotten about. The stitching up part, right, okay, this is in the video that I filmed. This is where I got upset, so I'm sorry if I get teary again. But a couple of midwives came in to sort of have a look to see what would need doing. I was told that I tore in 2 places, but only one would need stitches. However, I feel like typically most women tear down here towards their bottom. I tore this way. If you're familiar with the female anatomy, you will know that this way is where you urinate from, and also there is something else there which is very, very, very sensitive. So because I tore that way, they're a bit unsure, so many different people came in to have a look. I'm just in stirrups and everyone's just in there having a good look, and this is just humiliating. I'm pretty sure I'm still naked as well. So yeah, they, I guess, figured out what they needed to do. I was injected with anaesthetic, which was really, really stingy. Jamie stayed, my mum was sat holding the baby and Jamie stayed with me because I was very, very anxious, and I don't want to talk about this all again. Okay. Basically, I found the stitching up part the most traumatic part of labour, just for me personally, because of where I tore. Like I said, you've got to remember there is something there that is very, very sensitive. It's also like the most like intimate part of you, and I just found it very degrading, and I just lay there completely silent. I had tears streaming down my face, and I just stared at my baby and just trying to think about her. But yeah, it was very traumatizing for me. I don't want that to reflect on like the women that were doing the work, because they were very professional, really lovely. Like, I don't think it would have mattered who it was doing it. It was just what was being done to me. I felt violated, which is not a word that I use lightly. But yeah, that was that. I got through it without crying. Hallelujah. However, it just got worse, because they were like, well, where you've torn, obviously it's near where you pee, and now that is swollen, so you're not going to be able to pee on your own. I had to have a catheter, which devastated me, because that was one of my other big fears, like epidural catheters. They were my big fears. So I was gutted that I had to have a catheter. I think the actual like inserting of it was fine. It was just afterwards, I could just feel it there all the time, and it made me feel so nauseous and squeamish, and every time I moved I could feel it. Every time I stood up it made me feel faint because I could feel it there. We were still in the room that we delivered in. It had been hours now. My sister came. My sister was allowed to come in, and she was really great. She helped me put on underwear. I couldn't put on underwear with this bloody catheter. Her and my mum like gave me a sponge bath because I was gross, but I wasn't getting in the bath now that I had a catheter. She had a fan on me, and yeah, we were in there for a few hours. We went up to the ward in the evening. It was quite late. We'd stayed in that room for a long time. My mum and my sister went, and me and Jamie went up to the ward, and Jamie slept on the floor next to my bed like an absolute hero. Him and Robin slept, and I just couldn't sleep for ages because I had all this adrenaline in my body, and I just kept thinking of the stitches and how awful it was, and it was like I was having flashbacks and it was all happening over again. Like, it really, really, really got to me, that part. But yeah, eventually I fell asleep. Robin, did she wake up for a feed that night? I can't even remember. But we were in hospital, so we went in on the Monday, obviously, to deliver, and then we went home on the Wednesday. So we were in there for a few days. And that is the story of Robin's birth. I'm so sorry that this is a bit of a mess. Usually, obviously, I edit my videos so you don't have to hear me ramble about things and stutter. But just the way, technical difficulties, it just couldn't happen. And I said I was going to upload a special video on her birthday, and I didn't want to go back on my word. So here it is, take it or leave it. Robin, if you ever watch this one day, just know that I love you very much, and I would do it all over again for you. And I hope you have the best first birthday ever. I love you very much.